Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are here today to announce the open letter that was sent by JVMI, Justice for the Victims of the 1988 Massacre of Political Prisoners in Iran, JVMI. So I would like to just start with an introduction to your attention about these activities and how we reach this stage where we want the Human Rights Council of the United Nations and the High Commissioner for Human Rights to be fully involved in the trying to establish an independent commission of inquiry into the massacre. All of you know that this situation of the massacre of over 30,000 political prisoners. It started by the issuance of a fatwa of the former supreme leader, Ayatollah Khomeini. He issued a fatwa to eradicate all the opposition. So over 30,000 people were massacred, and they were victims of this fatwa. And up till today, the perpetrators have not been held accountable for their crime. This crime, no doubt, is a crime against humanity and also a crime of genocide. It's been described as such by the United Nations independent experts and by very notorious lawyers who are specialized and who had already acted in other commissions of inquiry on genocide and crimes against humanity. So this is why this initiative of launching an open letter is just to say enough is enough, time to prosecute those perpetrators, to bring them to justice and to hold them accountable for the crimes they committed.
It is always difficult to follow such eloquent mastery of words, but I think you summed it up so well on why we are all here today and why we need to keep pressing hard with all parliamentarians and all governments to ask the Iranian regime to be accountable over the 1988 massacres. We need to support governments that are standing up and speaking up, but all governments really do need to support the UN investigation into those atrocities that were carried out in 1988. As somebody who came into politics really to be the voice of the people, particularly for women and girls, this has really, really fazed me why we still, all of these years later, are asking for the same rights to be upheld for the people that have lost loved ones in a massacre that nobody has yet been held accountable for. When my right honourable friend, Dr. Matthew Hofford, the MP in September, asked the assessment from the Foreign Office of the merits made up of a UN-led inquiry into the 1988 massacre, the then Foreign Office Minister responded by urging Iran to allow the UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights in Iran access to the country so that he could conduct research and investigate into human rights concerns that were reported there, and that included the 1988 event. No government should tolerate the impunity enjoyed by this current president, President Ibrahim Raisi, on his part in the massacre. All governments should publicly use the fora it has at the UN to push for an inquiry that would hold him and others accountable. The Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights finds no legal barriers to an international inquiry into the massacre, not least following the support of the world's most preeminent human rights experts, which letter has been unveiled here today. We believe that the UN now needs to act. It needs to make amends for the decades of inaction that have only fueled the culture of impunity that now exists in Iran. As early as August 1988, the UN knew what was happening. So it's time to put an end to the UN's inaction. Surely it is global human rights, the community that has been working so tirelessly to mobilize an international investigation into that massacre, that pressing need for accountability in Iran, and the gaining of the parliamentarians from across the globe, that this really now needs to come to a point where we do get this proper inquiry investigation.
I just want to emphasize that this letter and this list of 463 international experts, including 18 Nobel laureates, including the former head of the International Criminal Court, this is an explosive issue. The UN Human Rights Council cannot ignore this. They cannot ignore this. This letter today is absolutely fundamental to bring an end to the suffering of the survivors of the horrible massacre of over 30,000 political prisoners in 1988. They were subjected to 3-minute hearings in front of Ebrahim Raisi and other murderers. They were asked, do you still support the PMOI-MEK? And if they answered yes, they were lined up and then taken in batches of 10 or a dozen at a time into a large chamber where they were hanged. Some of the survivors who actually managed to survive because they fainted when they saw their colleagues being hanged, they have survived to give witness to this atrocity, this genocide. Now, today's letter should bring the perpetrators to account. The Iranian regime is now on trial and facing justice in several different courts. And today, this explosive letter calls for the United Nations to stop dilly-dallying, stop hesitating, bring Ebrahim Raisi and the other perpetrators of genocide and crimes against humanity to face justice. The time is up for all of these criminals. Thank you.